This is a response to Truthslayer. Now, I just watched this video about the history of WrestleMania, and I agree that some WrestleManias, that some people, they kind of exaggerate what WrestleMania should be. They kind of put it on a higher playing field, and then when they see it, like when they see WrestleMania, they judge it. They judge it on how they would have expected it to be. And to me, that's really the wrong way to perceive WrestleMania. When I used to watch, well, I still watch WrestleMania, but when I used to watch WrestleMania as a casual fan, I never used to compare past WrestleManias. I never used to compare my my viewership of WrestleMania. I viewed WrestleMania as a once in a, like one time of year where I can sit down in front of my TV and just watch at least a spectacle, at least entertainment. To me, wrestling is entertainment because I get entertained by watching wrestling. Now you can say, "Oh, that was a good match. That was a good match. Oh, the Money in the Bank ladder match. That was a very good match." But what it all boils down to is how good, how entertained you are by watching WrestleMania. And I'm always entertained by it. Even if it had the shittiest card, I would still be entertained by it. WrestleMania 9. I don't know why people down WrestleMania 9 so badly. I mean, granted, it wasn't a really good like a really good show, like as other people have said, but I still found it to be very entertaining. I mean, I thought Razor Ramon and Bob Backlund, even though it was a very short match compared to what these two can actually perform at, I thought it was a pretty good match for a short match. But it still needed to be a longer, to be at least past that very good match type quality. And I think Lex Luger, the narcissist Lex Luger versus Mr. Perfect, that was, for me, that was a wrong clash. You can't. Mr. Perfect, he's a great athlete, perfect wrestler, perfect. But to put him with Lex Luger, it wasn't that good of a decision. I mean, mind you, put Lex Luger over, but I felt Mr. Perfect could have done something more in that pay per view. But that was just me. But I was still entertained by the match they had. See, when you're not entertained by WrestleMania, that's when you start to feel that why did I lost or I just lost $40-50 worth of my money just to watch this crap. If you pay something, if you pay for something, and you have seen past, like, if you pay for a WrestleMania or a pay per view and you've seen past pay per views and WrestleManias that you've liked, and then you try and set the WrestleMania you've seen before to the WrestleMania you're about to see, and when you do that, that's not good. And it's not good, ladies and gentlemen. Truthslayer. But you can't compare this year's to last year's. I mean, last year, WrestleMania had an 8-man Money in the Bank ladder match. Now this year it had 7 men. Last year there was people saying that 8 men in the Money in the Bank ladder match is a clusterfuck. It's going to be a mess. And then this year they're saying the same thing. But yet, the thing is, last year after the Money in the Bank happened, that was a great match. It wasn't a mess. And that's the one good thing that WWE are good at. They're not that, they're great at not making matches a mess. TNA, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. But you can't just judge it by last year's WrestleMania. You can't judge things, you can't compare. Because it's the same event, but there's different qualities about the event. Last year it was about the Battle of the Billionaires. This year is about the Big Show versus Floyd Mayweather. Two totally different matches, two totally different aspects, two totally different storylines. I don't get why people have to compare things to each other. It's just, it makes me feel like, oh, like this, like I want to rant. But it just makes me, like PS Power, he goes on about how past WrestleManias have been better than what we've seen. Like, you know, it's going to be a solid WrestleMania, but it's not going to be one that we're going to remember. I know it's not going to be one that I'll remember for a long time coming, like in the next 20 years, but it's still going to be good. What's the point of arguing about that it's not going to be a spectacle? You can't compare. You can't just say, oh, this WrestleMania was good because it had Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock in nearly a long feud. Or you can't, or Ric Flair versus Randy Savage, which mind you was a very good match. You can't say, oh, Ric Flair versus Randy Savage from this year is compared to Triple H, John Cena, and Randy Orton. Because, mind you, it's a triple threat match. It's not a one-on-one match. People may want to see one-on-one matches, but you can't have the same match over and over again. You've got to have some variety. You've got to have some change within WrestleMania. You can't just have the same thing. It's like they say, wrestling is changing. The business is changing, always changing. Every day it's always changing. The internet is making wrestling change. But when people set their standards too high, like in my previous video, how the people are setting wrestlers on a pedestal too high up. They're setting WrestleMania too high. They're expecting a big show, and mind you, they're paying $40 to $50 just to see a big show. Now they should get something in return. But if you're willing to pay that money and you get disappointed by it, then that's your own fault. But if you just look at the show, you look at the event, and you just sit there by yourself, don't even think about rating the matches until after everything's finished. Just sit there and just feel excited, just feel like you're entertained. Because it's a show after all. There's nothing wrong with watching WrestleMania, even if it's a crappy show. If it turns to be a crappy show, who cares? If you were entertained at least by one aspect of the show, you're one happy camper. Am I right? Anyway, Brothers 1986 out.